welcome everybody to this month's SBU, Small Business University. Today we're going to be talking about how to create a child-friendly environment at your business and why it's important. But to kick us off, as we always do, our sponsor, Craig Donaldson with the Payroll People. And I should mention that Payroll People is both the payroll company for the Chamber and for First Five Fresno County. So welcome, Craig. Thank you for your support. And this will be recorded, by the way. Everybody will be able to get this on our website, presumably on the First Five website, and it'll be on YouTube. And so we can all share it around, and hopefully a lot of people are going to see this. So again, Craig, thank you for your support. And what's Payroll People up to?
Well, I'll tell you what, Scott. First of all, it is a pleasure to be part of the Small Business University and be partnered with the Fresno Chamber. Um, we are truly one of the local payroll companies in Fresno and the surrounding areas. We service all of California and all 50 states. Um, We have payroll, human resource systems, tax pay and file, and basically can support punch to paycheck, hire to retire, all of the buzzwords out there for what a new business would need to be concerned with on the payroll front. We started in 1981 here in Fresno. We are proudly celebrating our 45th year in business. We are today one of the largest independently woman-owned payroll companies in the country. So if anybody would like additional information after this, I can be reached at cdonaldson@payrollpeople.com. With that said, I'm going to turn it back over to you guys. We are just proud to be part of this. So thank you very much.
Thanks again, Craig. So next, let's move on to the panelists. If you wouldn't mind introducing yourselves. Let's start with Fabiola.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Fabiola Gonzalez. I serve as Executive Director for First Five Fresno County. We are a small agency focused on supporting the first 5 years of life across all the sectors that touch the lives of families raising young children in Fresno County. And I can pass it on to Chad.
Thank you. Thank you. I'll start by saying what a privilege it is to be a part of this. And yes, my name is Chad Withrow. I'm the Chief Operating Officer of Art of Comfort. We're an air conditioning firm located here in Fresno with additional services in the Bay Area, specifically Pleasanton and the greater Pleasanton area.
My name is Denise Christensen. I am the marketing director for Art of Comfort. I hail from Philadelphia and moved to California in July of last year to explore this endeavor. So we're just really excited to be here and honored to have received this award.
Mike.
Good morning, everybody. I'm Mike Gonzalez. I'm the president and CEO of SynCal Services, public works construction company based in Fresno, California. Good morning.
Excellent. And I should mention that Art of Comfort was this year's winner of the Child Friendly Business Award, and SynCal is a previous awardee. So we're here to learn from you and your experiences being child friendly. I'm Scott Miller. I'm the CEO of the Fresno Chamber of Commerce, and we are approximately 140-year-old business membership and advocacy organization. We're just about as old as the county of Fresno, and we're working hard to produce days like this. So let me kick it back over to Fabiola. Like, what's the history of this award? Why is it important?
Thank you, Scott. So the Child Friendly Business Award was created at First Five Fresno County to both honor and challenge our local business community in their support to their parent employees. And that happened in 2006. And since then, close to 100 businesses have been honored. Like you said, in 2025, these two businesses have received the Child Friendly Business of the Year award, and that's through a new partnership that First Five Fresno has with this business serving entity that is hosting us today, the Fresno Chamber of Commerce. We wanted to take the Child Friendly Business Award to another level of awareness and recognition in our community. We are super excited to be with the two winners today, SendCal Services and Art of Comfort. And I want to touch on a little bit of when it comes to being a child-friendly business, research shows, and you'll hear about it today, little things implemented in the workplace make a big difference. Employees value the flexibility to balance work and home life often more than promotions, above market salaries, or even stock options if they were offered. Child-friendly can mean different practices for different businesses depending on the industry. And you don't have to invest a lot of money to make a big impact. And so when you think of child-friendly business practices, well, those could be flexible work schedules, extended maternity and paternity leave, offering transition plans for moms returning back to work after a pregnancy, and childcare benefits. Childcare benefits can be, hey, I need to bring my baby to work maybe on an emergency, or like 1 day a week or half a day, or hey, the boss has a pool of funds that we could use if we need to for childcare stipends or vouchers. The childcare benefit can look many different ways. We absolutely believe that businesses play a vital role in supporting a child's first 5 years of life. All the businesses in our community really have this role of raising the next generation like the rest of us. And being child-friendly is a viable way to show your employees your appreciation in a way that won't hurt your bottom line, but honestly might actually improve it. So I'm thrilled, Scott, that we can get to hear a little bit of, I've told you what the research says, what we know to be true, and now we have two examples today to hear more about how they are implementing their child-friendly practices.
Excellent. Well, thank you. And I'm sure there will be more questions for you before we're done today. But so to the panelists, how did it make a difference at your business to be recognized as child friendly? In other words, what did the award mean to you and your employees and maybe even your customers? Can we start with Chad?
Of course. Yeah. Listen, again, it's a great honor to be recognized with this. And I'll say, a moment ago, we just heard Denise say that she relocated from the other side of the country to be a part of this endeavor. And it's a privilege to be able to work with her every day. But at the end of the day, what we did is we started this business with the question about what if? What if we implemented servant leadership inside of our day-to-day operations? And what that means is, we put our employees right at the cutting edge and first with everything inside of their lives. And I have a whole slew of examples that we could go through, but at the end of the day, what we look for are ways to serve our employees with the anticipation that those same employees will be able to go out and provide a premium product or service for our customers. And thus far, it's worked really, really well. Because the employees that come into our office that interface with the executive leadership of this team, they have positive experiences. We're constantly trying to engage them in the things that matter to them most. They're parents, and so we try to engage them with things like, whether it's they need a couple extra hours for lunch to go to a doctor's appointment, or hey, my kid's soccer team is raising money, or we do lots of community engagement operations, like we go and we speak to schools. Most recently, we've spoken to Stone Creek Elementary and River Gold Elementary. And it's just this constant drive to try to find ways, not just passively have them come across your plate, but try to find ways to better serve our employees. And naturally, at my age, at the age of some of my employees, I mean, we're raising families, man. I mean, I'm a business person, but before I'm a business person, I'm a dad. I'm a dad of three beautiful girls. And, I understand what it takes to do both, and it's not easy. And if we lived in a world where we had a business that was much more hardlined about, well, no, you need to be here from 8 to 5 every day. And, I don't care what's happening and, behind the scenes in your life. I need you to take a 1 hour lunch or a 30-minute lunch, what have you. And you need to be back on time every single day. What does the messaging say to that employee when they work, frankly, more hours inside of their job than they do at their home, if you think about it, right? What message does that send to that employee? And it's like, I'm here for a job, I'm here for a paycheck, and I'm going to do my time, and as quickly as possible, I'm going to get out and, frankly, honor the more important commitments in my life. Well, if we blur that line just a little bit and we say, hey, this is obviously a business and we're going to pay you well. Uh, but we also want to be able to engage with you in this other world that again is more important than any business that we've interfaced with. We want to engage with you on this, something that's incredibly personal to each employee. What product does that present in front of our customers? And what we found is that, again, employees are far more engaged in the business. They have a stake in the business. And they go out and they provide a superior service. And that's something that we advocate for. And on the marketing side, we say that we provide the best service inside of our space in the HVAC space, in the greater Fresno area and in the greater Pleasanton area. And I can say that with confidence because of the people I get to see every day and their level of engagement in the business.
Excellent. So it's made a difference in terms of specifically the employee engagement and satisfaction
Yes,
and retention and attraction and all that. Mike,
absolutely.
what are your experiences at Sencal?
Well, it was a complete surprise to me. I had no idea that my staff or the team had applied for this. So when we won, Shannon, our office manager, said, "Hey, we won an award." And I was like, "Okay, what did we get?" Not knowing anything. And then she told me about it. And I was like, "Well, how do we do this?" And they go, "We did the application and everything." So as an owner and upper management, it was a complete surprise to us. But the team was so excited about it. They were really proud to have taken the initiative to do it and to basically promote themselves, right? As an owner in a business, you want to take care of your employees, but it's not a sales tool for us. It's doing the right thing for our employees and making sure that they're taken care of. You mentioned employee retention and employee satisfaction. That's just a part of it. We're a large company, 150 employees, and you have to be really careful on what you put. If there's anybody HR related in the webinar, they'll know. You got to be really, really careful with this when you say, okay, yeah, go ahead and take time off when you need it for your kids, because policies and doing the right thing kind of get in the way sometimes. So it's a real fine line. That's why I like to call it culture that we have here, that they know under the immediate stresses that we all feel doing the job, that home life doesn't need to be one of them. That if you need to take time to take care of your kids or go see your kids or get that doctor's appointment that you're really trying to get, but you can only get it at 9:30 in the morning, yeah, go take care of it. That's the way it is. You have that freedom to do that. And, but it was really exciting for all of us to have won this award. And we're really proud when we say that we're the 2025 Child Friendly Award from First Five. And to go back in history, we actually helped the contractor build that building way back when. So Durham Contractor was it. So we were really proud to say, hey, remember when we helped build this building up downtown? This is the people. So it was really neat to kind of do that full circle for us.
Excellent. I should mention, if anybody on the webinar has any questions, you can just put those in the chat and we'll answer them in real time. And if not, we'll try to take some questions towards the end.
Scott, and I think there is, if you can
Yep.
let your team know, I think the chat had been disabled for some participants. So maybe they can look into, make sure they can send in some questions.
Yeah, absolutely. Maybe,
Awesome.
yeah. Yeah, guys, if you can look into that while we're talking here, that'd be great. How about this one? Have any of you experienced any pushback or any negativity or any challenges from anybody saying, "Oh, like, there's kids around the office," or what have you?
Mm.
I'd love to chime in here because astoundingly no. In fact, when somebody sees that somebody might be able to take advantage of the flexibility that we have here, it's almost encouraging. It promotes, like Mike has said several times, it's the culture, and everybody's been put in a position where you're stuck between a rock and a hard place of like, you know, and I can't speak for myself in a lot of these situations. However, you get a call from the nurse in the middle of the school day and you have to leave and go pick up your kid. Or, daycare is closed and you have to come in for an important meeting and you have to bring the kids in. In fact, in here, it's almost like a community focused event where, oh, we have kids in the office and like, all right, what do you want to put on the TV so we can keep them entertained? Do we have any fun things that we could do for lunch? Like it really kind of, who doesn't like when like second graders are around? They're hysterical. So I think for the most part, you don't really see any negative uh, energy at all as it relates to enabling people to take care of their family.
Takes a village. When I first started having kids, again, I have three daughters. One of the first things my parents told me is it's going to take a village, and that's true in so many ways. Um, so we like to participate in that for sure.
Yeah, I think in-house there hasn't been, it's been nothing but positive. I love seeing the kids here, engaging with them and see as they grow. I don't always see them week to week. So then they come in. I was like, oh my gosh, you guys grown 5 inches since the last time I saw you. So I really enjoy that. And it's a great boost when it happens in our facility. Now we have gotten pushback from certain clients because say so-and-so is trying to get somebody, oh, they're out today. And only twice have I had to step in and go to the client, hey, here's the reason why they're not in today. This is the reason why this isn't happening for you. But we have other team members that can totally take care of you. I know you want to talk to this person, but they're taking a personal time today, and this is what we do as a company. Usually that conversation goes over really well and they understand because in the high pressure world that we live in construction, deadlines, shutdown days, certain plants and stuff, you got to remind the client sometimes that there's more to than just this, deadline. So that's the only 2 times I can think of something being like that.
Well, for sure, and a lot of those things would happen. But what I don't know that anybody really came prepared to talk about this piece of it today. But there's so much of being child friendly that's sort of baked into California law anyway. And I think this award is meant for companies that go above and beyond that. But that, you've got FMLA and all the other the CFRA and all those laws that are just sort of important and baked in, where you're going to have people gone, you're going to have people out for maternity leave and so forth anyway. And if there is pushback from customers, that's going to happen anyway. So the argument, I believe, in the case of really child-friendly businesses that go above and beyond is that you can stand out above the other companies in your business by taking what's required of us and just doing it a little bit more. Am I kind of right about that, or how do you guys look at this from an HR standpoint in terms of how it helps you meet your legal requirements?
Yeah, I would like to speak to the laws just a little bit. I think Mike really said it best. I wrote it down. It's putting the humanity back into leadership, right? And one of the laws that really kind of tweaks me a little bit. I mean, there's a series of them. There's 10, I believe, but there's a Reproductive Leave Act. And it requires, if you're going to embrace a child-friendly business, it's not just about setting an additional policy or extending. It's about changing your mindset. It's about constantly thinking about ways to serve your employees and engaging them in the things that matter to them most. But specifically regarding the Reproductive Leave Act, I'll read it. It's right here. It says a subset of California's bereavement law increases an employee's leave entitlements for a reproductive loss event, defined as the day or for multiple day event, the final day of a failed adoption, miscarriage, stillbirth, or an unsuccessful assisted reproduction. Now, and it allows 5 days. I have a problem with this because in order for this law to be on the books the way it is, that literally means that people had to sit down at their desks and say, okay, what's an appropriate amount of time in in this unbelievably tragic moment where someone has like a failed adoption or God forbid a miscarriage. I think 5 days is okay, right? Like it's very difficult to assign numbers to this because we're human beings, man. This is like the most tragic event that could take place in your life, and we're assigning numbers to this. And what Mike said, it implies to me that you have to change the process that you think about these things, man. Engage with your employees. Talk to them. How are you feeling today? My God, that's terrible. Like, what do you need? How can we serve it? How can we serve you? And it's not going to be about how much time they have off. Maybe they need to talk to someone. Are you going to be able to provide them some sort of a counseling service? Would you be able to provide them with, meals or anything else that they might need in this tragic time? And to think that people sat down and thought about, well, how much time is appropriate? Should we do 4 days? No, we could probably do one more. Should we do six? No, six is too much. Let's settle at five. That's ridiculous. Like, let's get our heads out of our butts and think about what actually matters to our employees, man. They're human beings, just like you and me and everyone else on this call. Figure out how to service your employees and get serious about it. You can't just say, "Hey, we're a child-friendly business because, we put a TV in the conference room and we have a Netflix subscription." That's ridiculous, right? Engage with them, find out what's important, and find ways actively, not passively, actively find ways to serve your employees. That's what it means.
There you go. I
I mean,
absolutely agree
it's
with that.
seriously though. I mean,
Yeah.
yeah,
I-
you
I-
could you
In,
could
in
say
our
the reason
job
I
here at the chamber, though, a lot of people, we spend a lot of time talking about some of the regulations and how they can be burdensome to businesses, and particularly in California, and they're hard to keep up with, and that side of the coin is undeniably true as well. For the average small, you're both, both of the companies represented here are larger businesses, and we deal with a lot of businesses that are 5 or 7 or 10 employees, and they don't have an HR department, and they sometimes don't even have an HR consultant that they work with, and so they're always surprised by these laws. And what you find is that most people want to do the right thing. I don't know of anybody. I don't know of the largest business in the world that has a policy to make people work after they've had a tragedy. We're businesses are people too. Like, businesses are not bad as a rule, right? But I think that but people do fall through the cracks at large businesses. People, the top level of management doesn't even know what's going on with the people at the bottom end. And so part of being a child friendly business is, to your point, I think, is baking all of this stuff into the culture. If the people at the top of the organization will tell the managers at the next level down, here's how we this is the culture we want at this company. I don't want to find out about somebody who's an entry level person who just started, who we were treating badly. And that works its way all the way down from managers to 4 people to whatever. I think that's really kind of a point that is really important to talk about here. It's, because again, I speak to business owners all day, every day. It's my job here. There's not a single one of them who doesn't believe what you just said, Chad.
Mhm.
They all do. They all want their business to be the most friendly business, the most client-facing business, the most competitive. Every business owner wants that. And kind of the message that we need to send here, or that I think the point of this is that it happens when you really make it part of your culture and really make it a priority.
Absolutely.
We have a question in the chat that might be best for Fabiola, and maybe you can kind of explain. The businesses that we're talking to today are uh, contracting businesses, and in the context of being child friendly, uh, from an employer-employee standpoint. The question that in the chat was it, a do you engage in helping retail businesses or businesses be child friendly to their customer facing parts. The question being, this absolutely from Stacy, this absolutely works amazing in an office setting, but how do you facilitate a more child friendly environment in a restaurant?
Yeah,
I think that applies to just really any kind of a retail environment or any kind of a customer heavy, customer facing environment. Are there any policies or resources for businesses like that?
I think it's Stacy, at the top we were talking about how it looks different for different industries. And I think both of these folks here, they have office hours and they also have, field hours, I'm sure. And in the retail space, I can tell you this because my husband owns a restaurant in town, and I'm all about like, okay, how are you being child friendly to your employees? And one of the biggest things is a flexible work schedule. And so it goes a long way to make sure that I need to have, servers and cooks at a specific time. And also when something comes up, like I need to let me know ahead of time, and then we can move around people so that coverage is there. And then so the flexible work schedules in a retail environment is the biggest thing. And then I think both Mike and Tad are talking about this. It takes a culture of, I can come to the management, I can come to the boss, I can say I'm struggling with something, or I need help. And it's not seen as like, oh my gosh, here you go again, you're gonna take time off. It's more like, how can we help you? Like, of course, what can we do? And I want to underline what Mike said, that even forward facing to clients, you had a client that was saying like, hey, how come so-and-so is not here? And you were able to, like, in your leadership role, to say, this is why that my employee is doing what my employee needs to be doing, and we can take care of you. And so I think it takes creativity of, in whatever environment you can figure out, is it extended leave? Is it flexible work schedules? Is it different ways that you could approach having your employees feel valued and seen as their other role that they have away from work? So that's one way that I would say that it takes being creative about what is it that employees need, and how can the boss and management help them get there.
Are there any resources or training opportunities again for the customer facing side of it? And we had a question not that long ago about this to the chamber. Are there resources for how to help your employees be more sensitive to families where a child has developmental disability, or again, I'm talking about more of a retail or a restaurant setting. I'm in the nursery business myself, outside of this role at the chamber, and my nursery is right in the center of town, and it has a train that goes through it. And I noticed a few years ago that it's right next to the train tracks. So there's not a literal train that goes through it. But I noticed quite a few years ago that parents of kids with certain types of disabilities will bring their kids to the nursery and hang out to watch the train go by. Um, and we ended up doing a training for the people who work there, that I mean, obviously this is okay. You can just it's fine. People don't have to buy plants. If you just want to bring your kids in, it's fine, and to try and find ways to serve those families, even though they don't work with us. That's a long question, but are there any resources for that type of thing, or that you're aware of?
I think you're talking about how to be child friendly with the clients, right? And I think
Yeah, I
you're
feel like it
giving a
might be all part of the same package though, right?
yeah,
Like, it's a culture of
totally.
getting, out of your head, and how can we do better for people? as
Kudos
businesses.
to your example. That's a beautiful example. Thank you, Scott, for sharing that with us. We do have a toolkit on our website and a self-assessment that businesses can take and like think of ways that, would make them think and see how a child-friendly business or practices or policies could be implemented. We're happy to send that to the team here at the chamber so that when the webinar wraps up, people can go in there and do a self-assessment and check out our business toolkit to see resources that we can have available for them, that we already have available.
That's excellent. We will definitely push that out both to everybody who signed up for the webinar today and just through our e-news as well. Okay, the next one is for the panelists. What advice do you have to again, I think that your both companies are really great examples of how to do this in the contracting business, which is a challenge. What advice do you have for other businesses that are trying to implement these things?
I think most importantly, and this point has been touched several different times throughout the conversation, but we're all humans. And at the end of the day, when you treat everybody with the love and respect, you end up getting more back from them in return because they're able to do the things that matter most for them. So at the end of the day, you're always looking at the bottom line and am I generating more revenue? Am I up year over year? If you're not practicing the culture of allowing people to take care of their family or doing what matters most for them, you're ultimately going to hit the bottom line anyway, because you're going to have to replace somebody that wants to leave because you're not offering the flexibility. I myself have had a very personal experience where even though I don't have children, I did experience a pretty major family event when I moved over here. So in July, I moved, and then in October, my mom was diagnosed with stage 4 lung cancer. The team here went above and beyond to allow me time to go back to Philadelphia. Do whatever you need to do. Your family matters more. For me, I'll run through a wall now. Anything I can do for Art of Comfort, for Chad, for other levels of our management team, because of the time that they allowed me to take to go home and spend time with her, I'll do anything for this company. And if you can apply that to all levels of your team, you're going to get that same respect back. So ultimately, it's just really about being real with people and just taking care of them. And Costco, I mean, is a really good example of this. Like if you can compare Costco and Sam's Club, they all have the same products, right? There might be a different name on the tags, but the way that Costco represents their people, they have higher retention, they have higher pay, the customer experience, the membership renewers are higher in Costco. And I feel like the same thing happens in HVAC or in concrete or whatever you call it. When your employees feel enabled and empowered, it's going to translate in a better experience overall, regardless.
You said it about as powerfully as it can be said there. Mike, you got anything to add?
Yeah, because some of the members are a little bit smaller company. My suggestion, I've been contracting for 30 years now. I would say the one impactful thing, yes, take care of your employees. That's obvious. But before that, hire slow. Don't get into the business of you just hiring anybody to fill a seat. I mean, really take your time and go through the motions of making sure that you're going to hire somebody or a potential employee that really fits your culture and can really understand and work well with others, because a bad hire can really destroy your culture. And then that's when you're going to get somebody that's might abuse the what you're trying to do for other members, right? And trying to be, take care of your employees. So as a businessman to another business person, I would say hire slow, I'm not, and fire fast, that's the adage out there. And then that way, you got the right people so that you can take care of them, and that's my thing. We have very high retention here. Our summer season's picking up, so we'll probably hire another 40 people as we get close. But you really take that time to make sure you hire the right people. So that's my biggest thing I think I got there.
I think that's a tremendous piece of advice, because it really is, another old business adage is you get what you measure. And if the only thing you're measuring with a leader in your company is commission, or you keeping your numbers up, you're gonna incentivize somebody to treat people badly, if that's the main thing you're measuring. Am I correct about that? And if we can measure how well are you treating people, and how much do the people working under you appreciate what you've done for them, versus how hard can you squeeze them? I think that there's the long-term payoff versus the short-term payoff, maybe.
Absolutely.
Um, let's see. Another question just came through. Hello, everyone. Theodore, CEO of Excel Save. Very sensitive and important topic being discussed. I think creating child-friendly environment for both employees and clients creates a huge psychological safety for all stakeholders. How do you factor in medical emergency preparedness in creating that safe and friendly space for everyone?
I think that's a great question. And the key word is emergency, right? Um, you know, for us, I mean, we're blessed with we do have contingency plans where if God forbid, something terrible happens and we have to backfill a schedule, or if we have to have someone, take on a second part of a shift, we do have that contingency plan that we could backfill relatively quickly. But that's easy for me to say because every business is different. Someone else said a moment ago, how does the supply inside of, like, let's say, a restaurant industry? And sometimes at the end of the day, it might be, myself or Denise or someone like Mike just has to go in and fill in. Key word being emergency. It was something that was unexpected that came up, but at the end of the day, it has to be addressed regardless. So how does the business respond to it? It's an emergency. Someone has to fill in, and that could very well be myself. It could be Mike. It could be Denise. And I would encourage anyone who's listening to have a contingency plan when, something like that happens. Someone that you can rely on quickly, someone that you can call to backfill a shift if it's a restaurant setting. But yeah, I think that's important.
And
I,
some
I
of that
think
might be mechanical too, like just cross training and so
Mhm.
forth. But uh, what were you about to say, Mike?
I was exactly that. I would say just make sure you're cross-trained. You don't want one department to be, if you lose that key employee, that it really shuts down a certain part of your system, whether it might be accounting or, AR or something like that. You cross-train across the board, plan, plan, plan. That's the biggest thing. Hopefully you never have that emergency, right? Hopefully we're just going through the fire drill. We'll never have a fire, right? But as long as you plan and you have steps and SOPs in place that, okay, what happens if this person goes down? Let's say for 3 months. What's that plan look like? Are we cross-trained? Can we do this if somebody needs to take a long extended leave off for a period? Not that we're trying to replace anybody, we're just trying to be the most efficient we can. And every company needs to make sure that they're doing that. Cross-training is key to any
Yep,
successful company.
100%.
Fabiola, what's the smaller end of companies that have won this award? Cross training is a whole lot easier with 150 employees than it is with five. Are there any strategies, and I know that the panelists have probably not always been large companies. How
Right.
did you deal with these issues when you were a company of 5 or 10 people, and how did it look different?
It's still, we've had winners as big as 4 people. There was I think it was a really small law firm that won one year. We've had medium-sized construction companies. We had a police department. The city of Reedley's police department won the award as well. And so there's Wells Fargo, Fowler Packing Company is another one of our winners. So large and small, and I think the two panelists have said it best in terms of the emergency preparedness part. I think the question was, how do we make sure that you still keep the child-friendly idea and concept when you're preparing? Sorry, there's an ambulance coming by. When you're preparing for an emergency, and we've seen that the loyalty that Denise spoke about earlier, there's the appreciation that employees have to feel seen and to feel acknowledged, helps in any shape of emergency that may happen at a business, because then everybody comes together to try to figure out what's the best way to approach the situation, whether it's a small team or a bigger team.
Excellent.
I
Well,
wanted, before I leave the mic, Scott, I wanted to also mention there was, in terms of an advice that, for the people that are listening, our small businesses, I think both of our speakers have stressed this idea that it could be a practice. So a child-friendly business can start with a practice that you do. It doesn't have to be a huge policy. Mike, you mentioned you have an HR department and you have to make sure that the HR laws and rules are followed. And for many businesses, they start practicing something that feels right because it's meeting their culture and it's in alignment with the values that they have as a company. And then it can turn into a policy. So for our small businesses, it doesn't have to be that, oh my gosh, in order for me to be child friendly, I need to develop some type of child-friendly policy and have specific, hours of time that you need to take off, like Chad, you were speaking of in terms of a law or a rule. It starts with, the culture, and it starts with the practices that you implement and the way that you show up forward facing, not only internally to your employees, but to the people that you serve in your business. So it can start and look very small. So it doesn't need to feel overwhelming. Just a quick advice, Scott, but back to you.
That is, no, that's great advice. I see no more questions in the chat. Any parting words, further advice?
There you
go. Fabiola, where can people find a list of the previous awardees?
On our website. If you go to first5fresno.org, and then there's a /CFB awards for Child Friendly Business Awards, you can see a list. We are happy to also send that to you all, so you can see there's as part of our history, we used to award, because we're first 5, so it was 5 businesses a year. And now through this partnership, we made it even more competitive. So now it's the child-friendly business of the year. So one company gets to have this award a year, and nobody can get it more than once. So that's why all of the businesses honored so far are Fresno County entities, and they've only gotten the award once. And I hope that is the case for both of you here, but many years, every year that we have the campaign, the same previous winners sometimes get renominated, and it's by new employees. And it's kind of a cool thing for us to send back a message that says, actually, your company won, 5 years ago or 6 years ago. And it's now over the years become an employee, not only retention, but, people put it, like, I think, Mike, you were saying you were very proud, and so are you, Chad, and people put it on their website and as a way to attract employees that you want when you're hiring slow, as Mike is suggesting for all of us. But yeah, we can, the list is there, and many of the organizations and businesses that in our community have won the award, and many more still to come.
Well, that is great. I'd like to just thank all of the panelists again for your leadership and for doing the right thing, even when nobody's watching, and then being surprised that somebody was watching. So thank you again. Thank you for your leadership, and to the people who've logged on, you'll all have access to this. If there's anything you'd like to refer back to, it'll be on our website and we'll send it out. And I think Fabiola will probably make it available to your constituents as well.
Absolutely.
So thank you all again. And this will conclude it for today.